Hey everyone, Julian here. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make Schranz. Make sure you stick around to the end because I'm going to be showing you little gems all throughout this video. You're not going to want to miss every single one of these tips, so stick around. Thanks for the support, everybody. As usual, you can grab the full template from this video at the top of the description on my website. It's available for everybody, so definitely make sure to go grab that. It's a really great way to take your tracks to the next level today. Thanks for the support, everyone. I'll keep it brief. Let's dive in. Alright, so we're at 154 BPM, right? Anything between like 150 and 160 is probably pretty good for Schranz. And the first thing here is the kick bass. Now, this is pretty much a rumble kick, but there's a little bit more magic that goes into getting that like crunchy, insane Schranz kick. So I'm actually going to turn off the group processing and just show you. We're starting here with this kick. So this is one of mine from one of my packs. I've just taken this one kick right from the loop. And we're just doing a little subcut. And what I like to do with this, I haven't talked about this, but what I like to do with this, to make sure you're not cutting off any important frequencies, you can use, this is actually where using your eyes does help. You can see on the spectrum here kind of where that fundamental harmonic is, right? Like whatever that lowest note is, and you can just cut it right before that. You know, because as soon as you start pushing it up too high, you can see you lose that kind of like the little bit of low end that you do want. So yeah, doing that and then just converting the bass to mono. Then we have the rumble. So what's basically happening here is we've got these 4 layers. So the way you do this is, like I said, it is a standard rumble kick, right? We're starting with a rumble. So what I'm using here is that same kick that I just showed you. But what I did is I actually dragged the start time forward so you get that, like, you know, more bass from it. And we have an arpeggiator, so it's going dun 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 dun. Then some delay, so that's kind of giving it like a da-da-da-da. But see, because it's filtered, the 16th notes are a little bit quieter. Then we're distorting it. And then low pass. So you want to get that, but then what's happening is you're actually going to take a few other loops. So I have like these. You can see like this one, I literally just took a quarter note. And then we're just filtering it a bit. Same thing here. Right, so it's taking like these live percussion sounds, you know, stuff that you couldn't really make in MIDI. Speeding them up, right, getting like just a little short loop. This one's got it too. Right, like old house sounds. And then what you're doing, so you're layering a few of those together. You can hear they all fit in different parts of the frequency spectrum. And then when you put those with the rumble inside of a group, and start to process it, check out what happens. So you hear that really crunchy kind of mid-range that's happening. Basically what you're getting, because you're distorting these together and you're letting the low end come through, plus then we're pushing it even harder with this limiter here, you're getting the bass pushing up against the mid-range and the crunch in these loops. And see, it creates that beautiful, crunchy rumble. Now, the other thing here is we got a little high pass going into those. Right? Kind of helps lift it up so it's not so boom, boom, boom. Side tune. And then another high pass at the end. Again, we're just looking for that fundamental harmonic and cutting there. But these you actually do want to cut up pretty high. Like when you listen to a lot of Schranz tracks and then you try to remake it with a rumble, a lot of times if your mix sounds wrong, it's probably because you have too much low end cutting through. Like I really noticed that with like OBI and Svedtech, and when I was studying those tracks, those guys, like sometimes they're cutting the bass like that even. You know, there's not actually that much sub, because the faster you go in tempo, you know, the less room there is for all that, like, boom. Right? It's just going to weigh the track down. So then there's even more group processing where we have the kick, so the main kick, and the rumble inside of a group. So this is where you can really, like, tie it all together. I just have this tiny bit of amp. right? It's only at 8%, but as soon as I turn it on, you can hear it. It's giving nice mid-range and low end to the rumble, and also kind of pushing the kick. But what it really helps to do is kind of glue them together, because they're all under the same umbrella now, right? So then we've got this just cutting out some more sub at the end. And then we're converting it to mono, because one thing you guys probably notice if you know about this is all of these subcuts do tend to add phase issues, especially when you're doing it multiple times and stuff. The good thing is that you really only want your kick and bass to be in mono when it comes to techno anyway, and especially Schranz. So you could just, at the end of the chain, you can do as much of this as you want and then just make the whole thing mono. It won't really matter. So then we have some more drums, right? I've got these 909 drums. It seems simple, right? It's just the open hi-hat and the ride, but there's actually a bit of magic to make this all groove really well. Like when it comes to the hi-hat, cutting that so it goes like, and it's really short. If you let it be really long, see, it doesn't groove as well. You want that to stop as soon as the next kick hits. And then with the ride, side chaining that, and then when I play those two together, you really hear how they bounce off of each other. Like a lot of that groove is happening here, but again, if you just think, oh, just drop in any old 909 hi-hat and ride, it's not really just that. There's a little bit more magic to it. So then we have this loop that I created. So this is kind of like, you know, a nice mid-rangey Schranz roll without any of the group processing. So basically I created this like rave loop thing by taking, so here's some white noise percussion. It's just a really short white noise and operator and then a high pass filter. Right, and I'll explain why that's there in a moment as well when we get to the group. But then it's being pushed against a few loops, so it's that same kind of concept as with the rumble, but there's a little bit more magic. So like for example with this one, again, it's taking one of those live kind of tribal house sort of loops that, you know, you really like, it's live percussion, right? But then, you know, I've got this volume shaping auto pan. So it's making it go, right? A bit of overdrive. So you hear the groove and how we're kind of working with that and making it our own, even if it's just simple stuff like this. High passing, and then a little low pass too. So there's not any like that's gonna actually clash with like the ride. Because when you start distorting stuff, you can add a lot of crunchy highs that you don't want. So you might want to start doing that. Then on this one, right, we just got that. I'll turn this up a little. And then this is like a live breakbeat that I just high passed, right? So it's kind of a similar concept to where I was going in the rumble, where it's like you get all this mid-range percussion together. The only thing here is it doesn't have like a sub in there, but you get all this mid-range percussion and then you distort it together. Obviously high pass at the end, and you see it creates this really nice loop, and then sidechain that, and then you can get a really good, and it also fit together really well with the rumble. Like you can really see how all these layers are fitting together. So then from there, there's just a little bit more percussion. We've got some live stuff. You know, like a live disco loop almost, which is very much in the DNA of all this hard groove and Schranz and stuff. You know, a lot of this stuff started back in the day, just taking loops from disco tracks like that and just repeating it over and over and over with like a faster techno kind of beat to it. So we're trying to keep that alive here, but basically what's happening, so I'm just compressing this a bit, because it kind of had some, like you can see it in the waveform, it was getting really loud on some of the notes and then really quiet on some of the others, so I wanted it to just be really even. We got a high pass, a little bit of a low pass, and then we're side chaining. We got this one. So just more of that live house disco kind of loops just to bring it together a little bit more. It's like you have all this stuff, which is nice and crunchy, but then you bring in these more clear ones, and it really helps. So then we have this. And I'm showing these together because it's kind of meant to be like, you know, the percussion over top of everything. And I think when you hear these tracks, you hear this stuff, right? Like, you can very clearly hear that it's not just drums. You know, like that little vocal and this. But, you know, when you hear it on its own, you see it's not actually that much happening. You know, it's just this little stab here. So this is like a piece of a drum loop. Again, like another live loop. Like some bongos. And you can see I've got a resonator on it, so it's getting like this kind of metallic effect. Distorting it, which brings that out a lot more. And then we got a high pass. So you get that nice little stab. And see, it's really repetitive too. And really, it's more about like how often it hits. Like, you have all this stuff, which is just constant. But then you got one thing here that's just... You know, it gives contrast to the beat, and I think that's really the key, is you need that contrast. It's not just like a steady loop. It's like a steady loop against things like this that are just popping in and out. Same thing with this vocal. So it's literally just, I took this vocal, chopped it up. A little bit of delay, overdrive, and then a high pass filter. Pretty simple. Again, more about that contrast with how it's just jumping in and out of the track. And yeah, so that's going to be it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe. And let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, you can get this full template. It's available at the top of the description on my website for everybody. You should go ahead and grab it while it's available. Thanks for the support, everybody. Every little bit helps. And I will see you tomorrow with another video.